I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this is UN Insider.
Coming up.
The United Nations Charter is a survival guide for humanity.
Calls to uphold the UN's core missions amid mounting challenges. A special session on the organization's role on the global stage. Racing to stop the spread of a dangerous virus. An update on the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
The world will always need this unique global platform.
A conversation with one of the candidates hoping to step into the role of UN Secretary General. Next.
Multilateralism is at the heart of the UN's mission, but it faces a growing number of challenges in today's world. This week, the Security Council discussed the importance of the multilateral system in global governance. China holds the Security Council presidency for May, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi traveled to New York to chair the session.
Tuesday's Security Council meeting was titled Upholding the Purposes and Principles of the UN Charter and Strengthening the UN-centered international system, a theme China has promoted during its previous presidencies. The meeting comes at a time of great volatility in many parts of the world, including Iran, Ukraine, the DRC and Sudan, and amid concerns that the world's strongest powers are failing to uphold both the UN Charter and international law. Before China's foreign minister spoke to the Council, the UN Secretary General outlined a list of challenges the Council is currently facing.
We are witnessing a dangerous erosion of respect for international law. Core principles, sovereign equality, territorial integrity, political independence, the prohibition of the threat or use of force are being challenged or ignored. Violations go unanswered and impunity is spreading.
Wang Yi then addressed members in the Security Council chamber, where he said that the world's major powers have a responsibility to lead by example in following international law and not practice double standards.
The root cause of the chaos in today's world is not that the Charter's spirit is outdated, but that the international order and the basic norms governing international relations, both set out in the Charter, are not being effectively upheld and observed. The international community should recall the founding vision of the Charter, carry forward its spirit, and fulfill the obligations under it.
Wang Yi told the Council that during major public crises, China races to help. He said that right now Chinese medical teams are on the ground fighting the Ebola outbreak in Africa. The Security Council also heard from Pakistan's foreign minister, who highlighted the role his country is playing in resolving the conflict in Iran. He told members that a prolonged conflict would serve no one and would endanger peace, disrupt global energy flows and deepen humanitarian suffering. Following the morning session, Wang Yi met with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres before addressing members of the media, where he underscored the importance of a United Nations that is able to withstand challenges to multilateralism.
We don't hope international relations return to the law of the jungle, and we all need to uphold the same system. That is the international system with the UN at the core.
Mitch McCann, CGTN, at the United Nations in New York.
The World Health Organization is closely monitoring a growing Ebola outbreak impacting the Democratic Republic of the Congo and neighboring Uganda. The outbreak has been declared an international emergency. There are now more than 900 suspected cases and more than 220 deaths linked to the outbreak. The rare type of Ebola identified in the outbreak has no vaccine or treatment. The head of the WHO traveled to the DRC this week, working with its government to scale up the Ebola response.
WHO and 55 humanitarian partners are present across the affected areas, providing essential health services, including treatment for acute malnutrition. WHO is on the ground, supporting national authorities with every pillar of the response, including contact tracing, establishing treatment centers, strengthening laboratory capacity, case management, infection prevention and control, risk communication, community engagement, and more. But he added that our work continues to be impeded by violence and limited access to some of the hardest to reach communities.
The WHO continues to watch the hantavirus outbreak that emerged recently aboard a cruise ship in the Atlantic. Hantavirus has an incubation period that can last up to 6 weeks. Many of the ship's passengers are isolating as a precaution. The outbreak is believed to have started with a Dutch couple who may have contracted the virus on a birdwatching trip in Argentina. I spoke with Jairo Mendez Rico from the Pan American Health Organization. What would you say is the main message that you would want people to know as they hear about possibly more cases related to this specific outbreak from the cruise ship showing up in other countries?
Yeah, I think that is expected to have maybe another cases, sporadic and additional cases related to this special situation on the cruiser. Of course, we are following the close contacts that were in the boat, and right now they were repatriated to their own places. But there is a strict following of these possible contacts. So probably we're going to have maybe 1 or 2 additional cases. But the most important message here is that it's not going to be like a pandemic. Of course, we all are thinking about COVID and the situation with COVID, but this is different. This is a very different virus. The transmission between humans is more limited than we had with COVID. And this is actually the only hantavirus that have been described to be able to transmit person to person, human to human. But for that to happen, we need like special conditions, very close contact with someone infected and already symptomatic during a long time period, at least 20, 30 minutes in less than 1 or 2 meters. So it's not easy actually to have and to transmit and to have the infection. So it's very difficult to really become like a global or a pandemic. So again, we're going to have maybe additional cases associated to the cruiser. Some of the contacts maybe. It's unfortunate that we already have 2 or 3 deaths associated, but we don't expect actually for this to be like a global problem like happened, of course, with COVID.
Violence in Haiti is having a significant impact on children in the Caribbean nation. Gang recruitment of children nearly tripled from 2024 to 2025. Children now make up an estimated 30 to 50% of gang members. Killings and injuries involving children have also increased.
Growing up means a daily struggle to survive, live in constant fear, and be subject to intimidation, violence, family separation, displacement, and trauma as gangs take advantage of the vulnerability of these children.
Let's take a look at some of the other issues on the UN's agenda.
Afghan women, children, and men continue to be pushed out of countries where they had sought safety, forcing them to return to Afghanistan against their will and exposing them to great risk.
UN human rights officials spoke out against involuntary returns of refugees and asylum seekers to Afghanistan. Since the beginning of the year, nearly 270,000 Afghans have been deported, mainly from Iran and Pakistan. The UN is calling for more aid to be allowed into Gaza. They say restrictions are preventing key medical supplies from entering the enclave. Supplies are also needed to address sanitation issues and prevent the spread of disease. The UN General Assembly approved a sweeping climate change resolution. It calls on all member states to avoid causing significant damage to climate and the environment. It also calls on members to uphold their climate pledges under the Paris Agreement.
Coming up.
We need to restore the credibility, the centrality of the UN.
UN Insider.
Making sense of the overwhelming wave of information means cutting through the noise to shine a light on the heart of the story and making room for new perspectives. True understanding means the ability to see events from more than one side. I'm Liu Xin, and this is The Point.
The process to select the next UN Secretary General is well underway. We've had the opportunity to sit down with some of the candidates vying for the top job. Rafael Grossi is the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Mr. Grossi, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Given everything that is happening around the world and the current perception of the United Nations, why do you want the top job?
Because we need to restore the credibility, the centrality of the UN, which was created more than 80 years ago precisely to protect and to preserve international peace and security. We are living at a time where multiplication of war and conflict is prevalent, and we see a gap, a deficit, where the UN is not present at the table. It is not actively involved in peace negotiations. So based on my own experience as Director General of the IAEA, where I have been and I'm still engaged in some of those, I believe that it is not an impossible job, as many say.
Has the role evolved? How has the job of Secretary General evolved?
Together with the world, and not always in an easy way. Obviously, the scope, the mandate, whilst being basically the same as defined in the UN Charter, has grown in the or in synchronicity with the international agenda. Although the Charter refers to development or to human rights, the dimension of these activities has been transformed with a number of processes that we've known in the 1950s, in the 1960s, with the decolonization process, the growth of actors which were marginal in the beginning, like China, for example, central in international life these days, together with countries from the global south. And of course, central economies and the industrialized countries. But we see a panoply, a spectrum of actors, players that have come to the fore. Does that mean that the role of the Secretary General is less important? I would say on the contrary. And why? We see these new platforms, these new groups, the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the G7, the G20, so many that have appeared, which is not bad at all, because this is also a reflection of new modules of international expression. But we still need one, and it's the only one, where everybody is represented, where every voice, every angle, every perspective of a problem is contemplated, and with the mandate and competences that the Charter of the UN gives to the different organs. That doesn't mean there are no problems or there haven't been deficiencies along the way, but in its evolution, the world will always need this unique global platform.
You've spoken a lot about impartiality and balance, especially with the big countries, the P5, and small developing nations. How do you get them all on the same page when reform is such a big part of what needs to happen right now?
Impartiality means being an actor that is useful for all. Means that you have an ingredient there in the equation which is showing the common good, or at least trying to do, according to the rules we all ascribe to, or all of us agreed to, and trying to move any given problem. It can be a war in Europe, like the Ukraine-Russian conflict. It can be the Middle East, or problems related to the financing for development, which is so important, and how to do it in collaboration with the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund and all the other institutions that we see. So it's an issue of articulation, which needs also guidance in order to work efficiently.
One of the big conflicts that you've had a front row seat to is the one happening in the Middle East. And you've said that Iran was not days or weeks away from a nuclear weapon and that the threat was not imminent. So what is your message right now to the U.S. and Israel?
I'm very happy to see that a ceasefire, albeit difficult, and as any ceasefire, sometimes patchy, has been agreed, and an opportunity is being given to diplomacy. I say this because I always felt, and I'm really convinced, that the lasting solution to this problem cannot be elsewhere than a diplomatic table. Why I say this? Because the complexity of the issues is such. We are talking about a very important country with a very vast industrial technological base, and with an issue or an activity that is dual-use activity. Nuclear energy, nuclear power is a force for good, it's a force for medicine, for oncology, for food, for electricity, and all of these things. But it can also be used to develop weapons of mass destruction, in this case nuclear weapons. So this is why its usage has to be always in conformity with the legal commitments that countries have. And this is where the problem started, in a certain sense, because of some deficits, some activities that were going on without the IAEA being aware of those, erosion of confidence and trust, and the accumulation of problems and frustrations that unfortunately, because no one can be in favor of war, unfortunately led to this situation. Letting that aside, we have a problem that we need to solve through diplomatic means, and we do have it in the negotiating process that is ongoing, and with an institution like the IAEA that will be able to verify, to inspect, to monitor that everything is in order at long last.
So what is your assessment right now of Iran's current nuclear capabilities?
Well, of course, with the 12-day war in 2025 and this new episode that started on February 28 until the recent ceasefire, it's undeniable that the nuclear infrastructure in country has been badly damaged. That doesn't mean that everything has been destroyed, but it has been damaged. The important thing is how we tackle the still outstanding issues that are there. And by this, what I mean? I mean the 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, which is uranium that is very, very close to the level that you would need to manufacture a nuclear warhead, which Iran had accumulated in great amounts without having a very obvious need. And that, of course, created a concern and anxiety in many parts of the world, and also some activities that were not being taken care of. So I say there is this material, there is these nuclear facilities and capabilities that they have that need to be inspected. So there is an array of things that are there, but that can be channeled in a peaceful way under a very robust monitoring and verification regime through the IAEA.
The United States has proposed that Iran's existing stockpile of enriched uranium be transferred out, and that could include potentially coming back to the United States. So from your perspective, from the IAEA perspective, how common is that an arrangement like that, and what are some of the challenges to implementing something like that?
Well, there are a number. I mean, it's not totally uncommon in the context of a previous agreement that the audience may remember. So it was called the JCPOA. It was an agreement signed in 2015 between Iran and the 5 members of the permanent members of the Security Council plus Germany. So there was an agreement that was discontinued. So as part of that, there was some shipping out of nuclear material. So that can be done technically. The issue here is that this comes not as a result of an agreement, but as a result of a war. So there has to be an agreement between the belligerent that this is the way to deal with it. It may be in this way. It may be through down blending of this material so as to make it less close to direct military use, which would be possible, or there are combinations of both. This is part of what is being discussed in these negotiations.
You've called China a good friend of the IAEA.
Yes, yes. China, nuclearly speaking, is a country that is moving very, very fast. It has become the second largest commercial nuclear producer with a number of reactors that is very, very high, building more. In this sense, the work and the collaboration with China is indispensable. In new technologies, China is exporting nuclear technology, so it's very natural that the IAEA must be very close to China, must work constructively with China. I was recently visiting again. I've been 3 times in China in the past few months, and this is a reflection of this dynamism that the nuclear sector in the country is showing.
Mr. Grossi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
UN Insider.
The fashion industry has a significant impact on our environment. Textiles account for up to 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The fashion industry also uses vast amounts of water. But some designers are changing their methods to make their business more sustainable.
Daniela Buitrago, founder and designer of the Colombian swimwear brand Aquarela, wanted to make big waves in the fashion industry. But she wanted her brand to minimize the impact her business made on the environment.
Since we make swimwear and beachwear, we have to be responsible. Water is essential for us. Our bathing suits are meant to be enjoyed in the ocean and activities in the water. So it's necessary for us to take care of the oceans and water as a swimwear and beachwear brand.
For Aquarela, putting the planet and its resources, like water, first has always been the priority.
Muchos creen que tenemos tiempo.
Many people think we have plenty of time, that we'll have water forever. But today, water is becoming a luxury, and over time, it will be harder to access. So this is something we must do, for both the planet and for ourselves.
Water consumption is a big issue in the fashion industry, the second most water-intensive industry in the world. According to Oxfam and the World Bank, the industry uses 93 billion cubic meters of water per year.
Fíjate nomás, una camiseta.
Just think about it. A cotton t-shirt needs nearly 2,700 liters of water. This water wasn't used to drink, it went towards making a shirt. And the person that buys it isn't going to use it more than 7 times.
Universo Mola describes itself as a Latin American sustainable movement in fashion. They have been working for the last decade in promoting sustainability in every part of the production chain.
¿Esto qué significa?
Valentina Suarez, the director, says it is in the region's best interest to think sustainable. Universo Mola connects more than 450 brands, designers, artisanal workers, and industry suppliers to form a sustainable fashion network.
La problemática que está solucionando con el producto y con la razón de la marca.
They work on communicating trends and brands so the end consumer can be informed. They invite people to be conscious of one of the first things they do every day, getting dressed.
El poder conectar y poder hacernos las preguntas correctas.
Being able to connect and ask the right questions, how we dress, what we wear, and why, leads us to greater awareness. We have the power to change systems through the way we consume.
Gracias a nuestro consumo.
These are the uncomfortable questions. How often are we washing our clothing? How many times are we caving to fast fashion trends? Do we take care of the clothing that we have? And do we buy secondhand?
Hasta decimos que hay que ser un poco más sucios, entre comillas.
We even say we need to be a little dirtier, in quotes, because we encourage washing clothes less. Every time we wash, around 500,000 microfibers end up in the ocean. These fibers are plastic. And over 60% of today's textiles are polyester.
I'm Elaine Reyes at UN headquarters in New York. Thanks for being a UN Insider.